my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today I'm showing you all of the books that I read in May. Okay, so like I said, I'm showing you all the books I read in May. I have not done a single month wrap-up, I think possibly this entire year. I might have done one for January, I don't remember, but this year has been a terrible reading year for me. I have just been in such a slump all year that I haven't really had enough books to do in a single month to do a wrap-up, but this month I read 6 books, which I know isn't like a ton, but I thought I would do one anyway because I'm starting to get back into consistently reading and finishing books and actually having enough books to do a wrap-up, which I'm very excited about. I'm beating this slump. It is the last thing I do, so I'm going to be showing you the 6 books that I read in May. If you watched my May deck of TBR, I did this new thing at the end of the video where I ranked the books to see how I thought I would like them, so from the one that I thought that I would rate the lowest to the one that I thought that I would rate the highest, and I read all of those books this month, so I thought I would do that in my wrap-up, show you the results of how accurate I was with my ratings. But before I do that, I'm going to go over the one book that I read that was not for deck of TBR, so it won't be part of that ranking, and that is Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This I had to read for my World Literature After 1945 class. This follows a woman named Ifemelu who is from Nigeria, and she moves to America, and it kind of follows her journey alongside a couple other stories. And I gave this book 4 stars. It was pretty good. It was quite lengthy. I think that there was a lot of details. Just sometimes there's so much information being poured on you at once that it can be a little bit dense to get through. And that was kind of my main complaint with this one. I ended up listening to some of it on audiobook, some of it reading, and I think it was just a little bit easier to get through with the audiobook because a lot of times it was a bit slow moving. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is an amazing writer and everything, but I am aware of her history of transphobia, and that's really hard for me to get past when I'm reading her works. I've had 2 classes so far in my college career where I've had to read books by her, which is a little bit disheartening because I know that there are plenty of other Black female authors who have amazing stories to tell. Some of my favorites are Audre Lorde, Minna Salami, Brittany Cooper. Those are a couple others who I've read from that I think are amazing writers. And so I do think that there's a huge resource of Black women writers who have amazing stories to tell. In a lot of my English classes, she's like the single woman of color that we read from, and I think that just needs to change, especially if she's perpetuating ideas of transphobia. We definitely need to have a resource of other Black women authors who we can read from. That's my little spiel on Americana. Whether I recommend it, it's kind of hard to say. I don't think I would ever read it again. Definitely want to be supporting other women of color authors. So let me know what you think below, and if there's any updates on her comments, if she's changed or anything, I don't really know, but let me know if you know anything that I don't in the comments below, because I definitely think there is room for forgiveness and grace when it comes to people's comments and revoking them and things like that. People change and people get better and people learn, so that's my spiel. I don't know, that was a bit of a mess, but yeah, I always want to be careful when who I'm promoting on this channel, because authors have a huge impact on their audience and we want to make sure we're promoting unproblematic authors. Next, so we have the 5 books that I got from Deck of TBR, which were these 5. The Summer Wives by Beatrice Williams, Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger, and The Young Elites by Marie Lu. The order that I put them in Deck of TBR was Devil Wears Prada on the bottom. I believe then I had The Young Elites by Marie Lu. Then I had Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Then The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Then The Summer Wives by Beatrice Williams. I believe this is correct, but now I'm second-guessing myself, so I'm gonna go double check. Okay, yes, that was correct. So this was the ranking. I hit myself in the face. This is the ranking that I gave it. I was pretty accurate, to be honest. I'll go over all of these books and I'll let you know my thoughts, and then I'll show you my final rankings. So on the bottom was Devil Wears Prada. I was correct about that. I gave this 3 stars, but it's probably more like 2.5. The more I think about it, it's probably actually 2. This, I feel like everybody knows the story of Devil Wears Prada. It's a pretty famous movie, so I'm not going to go over the synopsis too much, but it is an adult contemporary book. It was pretty average. It wasn't anything special. It was definitely a product out of its time. It didn't age super well in terms of sexism, but it was definitely, like, interesting. I think it was better than I thought it would be. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I just read it, because I did listen to the audiobook a lot with this book just because I needed to get through it because I had to read it for my comparative literature class and I needed to get it through it really fast. So I listened to the audiobook so I was able to work on other things while I was reading it. But I think I would have gotten really, really bored with it if I had to read it just by itself. So it's probably more of a 2-star. This was just super average, a little bit slow, a little bit boring, especially because I knew everything that was going to happen. I mean, it talks a lot about fashion, so if you're interested in, like, fashion industry stuff, this could be really interesting. It's a pretty, like, chill, relaxed book, so if you're looking for something like that, this could potentially fill that void for you. But this was on the bottom. I was correct in that. Next, I had The Young Elites, second from the bottom, so fourth, and that was not... Was that correct? Actually, I don't know. No, I'm gonna say it's not. Here's the thing. I don't know what my rankings are as I'm making this video. I'm making up what my rankings are. Because none of them were under 3 stars. So, they were all like 4 stars. I don't know. Okay, this was 4 stars, is what I'm trying to say. The Young Elites by Marie Lu was 4 stars. I didn't know what to expect from this. I expected great things because obviously Marie Lu, and I was not let down. Marie Lu, again, delivered an incredible narrative, incredible characters. Why did I not give it 5 stars? I don't know. To me, I really liked, in Marie Lu's previous books that I read from her, the kind of bond that she writes between characters, and I didn't find that as much in this book. I think the main character, Adelina, was, like, very solo, and that was, like, her, like, kind of part of her story, so, like, it wasn't wrong in any way. Like, I think that was how it was supposed to be written, but I think Marie Lu's strength comes in creating bonds between her characters, and I felt that was a little lacking, even though obviously there were tons of characters in this book that Adelina bonded with, and there was lots of angst around that, which I thought Marie Lu did a great job utilizing. I was a little disappointed because, like, for example, in Legend, Day and June, one of the most amazing bonds I feel like ever written, and I was kind of craving that again from Marie Lu, and that didn't happen in the same way. My last point about The Young Elites is one of the most shocking plot twists of all time, possibly, that I've read. The end of this book, my jaw was on the floor for the last, like, 30-40 pages of this book. Very shocking, very high stakes moments in this book. If you're looking for action, angst, like, feels. Marie Lu is just the feels queen, I feel like. She will get you in your feels, okay? Superpowers. Did I give the synopsis of this? No. This is basically about a society that I feel like is kind of Italian-based, possibly. Maybe Greece? Don't really know. Basically, there was some kind of plague, pandemic kind of situation, a fever, where the young people who got it, when they recovered, they healed with, like, some kind of marking. So, like, the main character, Adelina, like, has a scar down her eye, which is not an eye. She doesn't have an eye. Some people have, like, streaks in their hair. Some people have, like, a birthmark kind of thing on their face. They have these, like, markings, and they're called Malfettos. And some of the Malfettos developed powers. They are called the Young Elites. Adelina finds out she has these powers. The Young Elites come and get her. Basically, that's the premise of the story. There's also something called the Inquisition, which is basically the king's army type situation, and they're trying to hunt down the Young Elites and kill them and get rid of them because they think they're, like, from the devil or something. 4 stars for sure. Really great book, but I don't think it's in 4th place. We're gonna find out the rankings as we go. Okay, next I'm going to talk about The Summer Wives, which technically I didn't finish, but I'm, like, pretty far into it. I'm farther than this bookmark suggests. I haven't moved the bookmark for some reason yet, but I've picked up the general vibes. I'm going to finish it today, so I'm gonna rank it, but if my ranking changes, I will edit it in a later time. But I think this one is more accurately in 4th place. This basically is a historical fiction book. It takes place over, like, 3 different timelines: 1930, 1950, 1930, like, not, I could just literally look instead of guessing. Oh, 1930, 1951, and 1969. And it follows the main character, Miranda Schuyler, And in the timeline 1951, her mother gets remarried and on this like island, and she basically like spends the summer on this island and finds out all these crazy things. 1969 is her coming back to the island and kind of facing people again that she knew. 1930 follows a girl named Bianca who her story really hasn't been developed yet, so I don't really know what's going on with that. That's pretty much the premise of this. There's lots of mystery, lots of like drama. I'm actually really enjoying it. I thought it was going to be different than it was. I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but it's not what I thought was happening. I read a lot of reviews before I read this book. Average ones that I saw, like the most immediate ones that I saw, were all 3 and 2 stars. So I was a little hesitant going in because a lot of people were saying it was boring and there wasn't a lot of intrigue, but I feel total opposite. I am super hooked in on this book, but I do think it's going to be probably 4 stars. Can't see how this wouldn't be for everybody, and I am listening to the audiobook. Audiobooks help me so much through slumps, which is why I have been relying really heavily on audiobooks. I'm kind of switching back and forth between reading and audiobook, but the audiobook is very good and it's really helping me to get through this and to stay hooked. So I don't know how different that would be. Like, would I get more bored with it if I was reading it not through an audiobook? I don't know, but I think this is probably going to be 4 stars and probably under the young elites. I feel pretty confident about that. Next 4 stars was The Poet X, which possibly controversial, but I actually have some good reasoning for why this is 4 stars and not 5. This book is obviously very highly acclaimed and I totally like agree with all the hype for it. This was really an amazing book. If you don't know the story of it, it follows this girl, Xiomara, and I believe she lives in New York City and her parents are really strict and religious, and she's kind of breaking free from that mold through writing and slam poetry and things like that. It's a really, really empowering novel and it's truly amazing, but I only give it 4 stars. I have read from Elizabeth Acevedo before, and so I believe this was her debut novel, and I think some of her later work is better actually. For example, Clap When You Land is the only other book of her I've read actually, and I loved Clap When You Land, and I think that I could tell this was earlier in her writing, and I think she really developed into herself. So in order to kind of demonstrate that progress, I did only give this 4 stars. In addition, I think there were a lot of loose ends and underdeveloped storylines in this book. This is a bit of a spoiler, so I'll put spoiler on the screen, and when the word spoiler goes away, it won't be a spoiler, but her twin brother ends up coming out as gay, or ends up being gay, but I don't think he comes out in any way. I totally didn't understand why that was like part of the story if it wasn't going to have any type of payoff. Xiomara basically finds out that her brother's gay, and that's it. Like, she's basically like, Mom and Dad are gonna kill you. They're really strict, really conservative, really religious. And he's like crying, and then his like boyfriend breaks up with him and moves away, and it's like really dramatic, and I was like totally waiting for the payoff of that because that was like a really tough story, I feel like, and there was absolutely no conclusion to that besides at the end of the book there was one sentence that suggested that he was interested in another guy. I don't know if I missed it, but there was no like, he didn't like say anything to his parents at all, and so I didn't really understand that, what happened with that, and that was, I feel like, a really strong storyline to bring into the story, and I just felt nothing happened. So that was my main critique of it. Also, I think a lot of it got resolved really quickly, with no real bumps. Like, her and her mother were like hugely at odds with each other, and then it just resolved like super quickly. Like, there was one huge falling out, and then all of a sudden a priest came to their house and they were fine, which is super wild to me. I felt like there was like a total missing piece there of like healing and explanation and things like that. Her mother literally burned her like entire journal, her entire like life's work. I just felt like there was no resolve to that. So that was my complaints with the Poet X, but I'm super excited to see what else Elizabeth Acevedo does, and I'm really keen to get her other book, With the Fire on High, because I would like to see the development in between the Poet X and Clap When You Land. But overall, I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth Acevedo, and yeah, that's my thoughts. Definitely number 1 though for this month was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I did give this 5 stars. I underestimated this book for sure. The first 40-ish% of this book is fairly slow, so I did hesitate giving it 5 stars because I hate when books like have a really good payoff at the end, but the beginning is like really slow, because it's like, if you're really a good writer and you deserve a 5-star book, it should be good all the way through, technically. I feel like also it's like, it depends, like, the order you read, the good and the bad. Like, if the beginning is really good, the first half is really good, but the ending is really bad, you're more likely to give it a 4 stars than a 5 stars than if it's really bad at the beginning but then gets really good, because the last impression of it is good. Does that make sense? So it's not like a strong 5 stars, but it's definitely higher than 4. But I don't even think it's 4.5. I think it's 5 stars, but like on the weak side of 5 stars. Either way, this follows a girl named Kaya who basically lives in this swamp marsh area by herself. Her family has basically abandoned her, and it follows her like over like maybe 10-15 years. It takes place over 2 timelines, and she's in both timelines, but the earlier timeline, which is like 1960, I believe, it follows her story of her family and her family leaving her, and kind of her learning to survive on her own, and the prejudice and discrimination that she faces for being impoverished and alone living in this barge, and how nobody helps her. And the second timeline, which takes place I believe in 1969, follows the murder of a like beloved jock character in the town that they live in, and his murder and basically what happens there. It was really incredible. I totally understand the hype, and I was really concerned because, like I said, about the first 40%, I did not understand the hype at all. I was looking at reviews, and there's a lot of reviews that are like, do not understand the hype, DNF'd, and I totally understand how that could happen, because the beginning, it's pretty weak. It is not a very strong beginning. It's slow. There's a lot of like really drawn out moments and imagery that don't really contribute, I feel like. But overall, I do think that the story really redeems itself by the end, and it is a really, really beautiful story of like making a life for yourself and building yourself from the bottom up. And it's a beautiful story of trust and relationships and like bond with nature. And Delia Owens really is a strong writer. She has amazing descriptions, and she can really pull you into the story, and I think that strength really shows in the second half of the book, not so much in the first half. So with that said, I feel like my rankings have become clear. Final rankings. On the bottom, The Devil Wears Prada, then The Summer Wives, then The Young Elites, then The Poet X, and on top where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I think that The Poet X and The Young Elites are like super in like exchange, like they can be like, you can move them up or down. They could be like, what is the word I'm looking for? Interchange, that's the word. I think they could both either occupy second or third place, and I could feel confident about that. But yeah, that's basically my final rankings. Compared to what I thought it was, I got 2 right. I guessed that The Poet X would be in second, and I guessed that The Devil Wears Prada would be on the bottom. So 2 out of 5, not too bad. That is pretty much my wrap up for this month. I'm happy to be doing wrap ups again, but I'm planning on really picking up my uploading schedule this summer and working really hard on producing content that I'm really proud and happy with this summer. So look out for some new projects that are coming out. I'm really excited for some of the stuff that I'm doing, and I hope you enjoy what I'll be coming out with soon. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. If you read any of these books below, let me know what you thought of them. Let me know what you read in May, what your favorite book was. If you'd like to see more from me besides YouTube, I have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Goodreads. They will all be linked in the description below. If you'd like to check out more of my stuff, check the description. That said, that is the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!